Amen. Look over here in 2 Kings chapter 7, and let me share this with you. This is about 4 lepers that were sitting at the gate of Samaria, and the Samaritans were completely surrounded by the Syrian troops, and they were starving them out. And it said that an ass's head went for 80 pieces of silver, and 1/4 of a dove's dung went for, I think, 4 or 5 pieces of silver. Can you imagine paying silver pieces to get 1/4 of somebody's excrement or some animal's excrement? They were starving to death. And this is where people were eating their own children and stuff. It was a terrible situation. And look at this in 2 Kings chapter 7. And it says in verse 3, "And there were 4 leprous men at the entering in of the gate, and they said one to another, 'Why sit we here until we die?'" Man, what a great statement. Let me just say this to you. How long are you going to sit here? Till you die? I think it was Albert Einstein that said it's a definition of insanity to do the same thing and expect different results. There are some of you that are praying that God will change your life, but you aren't doing anything different. It's insane to pray that God just somehow or another changes everything without you changing. Did you know change doesn't come from the outside, it comes from the inside? And again, I could spend a lot of time on this, but when the Lord spoke to me January the 31st, 2002, and told me that I was limiting Him by my small thinking, did you know what? I didn't pray and say, "All right, God, do something big." What I did was say, all right, I'm going to start seeing things on the inside. I'm going to take the limits off of God. I changed me. Change comes from the inside of you. It doesn't come from the outside in. It comes from the inside out. Proverbs chapter 23 verse 7 says, "As he thinks in his heart, so is he." I'm going to say something that might terrify you, but sometimes I got to terrify you before I edify you. But your life is the way that you think it is. I'm not saying it's the way you wish it was. I'm not saying it's the way that you are praying that it is, but your life is going the direction of your thoughts. As you think in your heart, so are you. Do you know if you're sick, your thinking is sick? That doesn't mean that you're thinking, "I want to be sick," but your thinking is sick. You have accepted, you are receiving it. You are limiting what God can do to what the doctor has to say or what this holistic treatment has to say. That limits God. God isn't limited to the medical profession. Man, when they say it's incurable, that doesn't mean anything to God. But if you think it does, you limit God. If you're poor, your thinking is poor. I meet people all the time who are praying for a miracle, and yet you think poor. When you go to buy something, you buy the cheapest, sorriest thing that you can, because that's who you see yourself as being. You know, when the Lord told me I was limiting Him by my small thinking, my media buyer, who he buys like $40 million of television time a year and stuff, so this guy's a multi-millionaire and he thinks big. Anyway, he took me out to play golf. And we played at one of these fancy places where you had to have a caddy. And after it was over, the caddies were cleaning the clubs and they were waiting for a tip. And so I got my wallet out and all I had was a $20 bill. So I leaned over to Doug and I said, "Doug, do you have change for a 20? And Doug just looked at me and he says, "I'll take care of it." And he went around and gave all 4 of the caddies $20 a piece. Made me feel about that big. I was going to tip $5 and I thought I was being generous. And so one time after that, I went to Phoenix and I was playing with a group of pastors, and one of them came over and says, "Hey, do you have change for a 20? And I said, "I'll take care of it." I went around and tipped everybody $20. But see, there's some of you that I guarantee you go out to eat and you think, all right, what's 10%, 20% or whatever, and boy, you won't give a penny above it and stuff, and you just think poor. I love you, you cheapwad. But there's people that are just, we had one woman in our school who she was raised during the Depression, and she literally would take her jelly jars and, I mean, scrape out every bit of thing and then put water in it and mix it so she could get the flavor. She kept the bars of soap, and when it got down to where, you know, you couldn't really use them anymore, she'd save them, and when she got enough, she'd melt them and make one more bar of soap. And this woman was so tight that she would drive all the way across town, spend $5 on gas to save triple coupons and save 60 cents. She'd spend $5 to save 60 cents. That's cheap. I'm not against coupons. Jamie has saved coupons, and if it's convenient and stuff, I'm not saying that you waste money, but I'm saying there are some of you that are just cheap. You know, now, like I was saying, it takes me $11,000 an hour just to pay my bills, and I look at things differently now. And if somebody wants me to do something for an hour, I think that this is going to cost me $11,000. Is this worth my effort? You think differently. I'm saying this in love, but there's some of you that you were just raised to think poor. You see yourself poor. You think poor. You dream small. You've been told that you can't do anything. You know, my mother was a school teacher, and so she had access to our records and stuff that many people didn't have. And one day she was talking to my brother, and my brother, his IQ is higher than Einstein's IQ. I think Einstein was 164, if I'm not mistaken, and my brother is 169. So he's a genius. And so she was talking to him about what he scored on his test. And I said, so what was my score? And she said, you were 2 points above an idiot. And did you know, right before she died, I said something about that. And she said, that's not true. And I said, you told me that when I was in the 6th grade. And she said, I was just joking with you, but all my life I thought I was 2 points above an idiot. There's some of you that you've been told something like you'll never amount to anything. You're an idiot. And you know what? It's painted a picture on the inside of you that you won't rise above it. You need to rise up. You need to get out of this mentality. God's bringing you out of the wilderness, and He's got a promised land for you. He's got all of these things, but you're going to have to rise up. So this is a great question. How long are we going to sit here until we die? How long are you going to keep doing the same thing that's not working? He goes on to say, if we say we will enter into the city, then the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. So what you need to do is look at your options. They were looking at their options. If we sit here, we're going to die. If we go into the city, we're going to die because they're all starving to death. So what's the other option? Go out to the Syrians. And look at this. He said, and if we sit here, we die. Now therefore, come and let us fall unto the host of the Syrians. If they save us alive, we shall live. And if they kill us, we shall but die. I love that. Some people just fear death so much, they fear failure of any kind so much that they would rather be miserable than run the risk of failure. And again, I say that there are some of you that are dissatisfied with your job, you're dissatisfied with where you are. You know God has something more for you than what you've experienced, but you are just so afraid of failure that you would rather stay miserable than run a risk. And I'm telling you, you're going to die, maybe not physically, but you're going to die emotionally. You're going to miss out on the blessings of God with that kind of an attitude. There is a joy and a satisfaction that goes with being in the center of God's will that you will never experience unless you do something different.